Hello, my name is Glenda Eoyang. I'm with the Human Systems Dynamics Institute, and I'm going to be working with you, playing with you, on May the 22nd at the Social Innovations Laboratory. The purpose of this video is to give you some background information and to help you prepare for your role as a project lead or host or broad participant in the process when we're together. I'll start by giving you some background information about the model and the method we'll be looking at that day. We'll walk through the agenda together so you'll see what your role is and what you can expect. And finally, I'll give you some other resources that you can use for background information if you'd like to know more. So let's begin with self-organizing. At the Human Systems Dynamics Institute, we believe that all human systems, including social innovation, are self-organizing processes, that in any place or time, the interactions between and among the parts of a system generate something new, and that that's how change happens in human systems, particularly social innovation. We also believe that you can influence the path and the speed and the outcomes of self-organizing processes in human systems, and that there are ways that you can think and talk so that you can see patterns as they self-organize, so you can understand them, and so you can take intentional action to move them forward. Those are the models that we'll be sharing on the 22nd, and we'll do very little talking and a lot of practice using them because they're very logical and very commonsensical. The first idea is called adaptive action, and it says when you're engaged in a self-organizing process, when things are happening around you, when patterns are forming or changing, you can look at them, you can think about them, and you can make decisions about how to act. Adaptive action. It's 3 questions. First question is what? What do you see? What do you know? What do you notice? What do you hear? The second question is so what? So what does it mean? So what does it mean to the past, to the present, to the future? So what does it mean about your options for action? So what? The last is now what? What are you going to do about it? Now that you've seen the pattern, seen how the pattern is coming together, what options are you going to choose for action to shift the pattern? Then, of course, when you take an action, the pattern moves, and you have to move back again at the beginning of your adaptive action process to say what, so what, now what again. We also think that in this adaptive engagement with the world, there are 3 conditions that shape how quickly a pattern shifts and in what direction. And that when you see those conditions in a pattern, you can make choices about how to move them so the pattern shifts. And that this engagement in the what, so what, now what, with the conditions of the pattern, allow you to be an intelligent, intentional actor in the context of a self-organizing system. Now, those 3 conditions are fairly simple and straightforward. The first is the container. That is whatever holds the system together. What is it that bounds the pattern? What is it that's outside? What is the whole, and how would you describe the whole? Now, your project already has a container. It has a title, it has a name, it has a purpose. You may have a team. You may also be working with other kinds of containers, communities or groups or funding sources or individual personalities. Lots and lots of different containers shape the pattern of your current project. Container. The second condition is called difference. That is, within the container, if everything's the same, there's no pattern. What you really find, especially in innovative projects, is that there are lots of differences. And each difference, that's the second condition, differences help you see the pattern. They articulate, manifest what the pattern is, the difference. But difference also is the potential for change. It's what sets the system a little bit off balance so it begins to move. That's difference, the second condition. And the third condition is exchange. Unless the parts of the system are connected to each other, then nothing is going to happen. So those are the 3 conditions: container, differences, and exchanges. If you make a container bigger, the process moves more slowly. Smaller, it moves faster. Lots of differences. The system is going to take a while to settle in, but it'll be very rich. Few differences. It'll go quickly, but it will go in a very narrow band. And exchanges, tight ones give you more control. Loose ones are less. You play with these conditions to help influence the process of self-organizing. Now, you have all of those conditions already functioning in your project. What we're going to do on the 22nd is to shift those patterns into a very small and tight space to try to speed them up. We're not going to add new stuff. We're simply going to take what's there and consolidate it, like put it in a pressure cooker. Smaller container in time and space, more differences in terms of lots of people, and tight exchanges in the ways that the conversation is going to be conducted. So all of those things we're hoping will help you put your social innovation in hyperdrive, move your self-organizing process forward very quickly. So that's our plan. The agenda is fairly simple. We'll start with an opening. And during the opening, we'll hope people have a chance to experience a self-organizing process, get a sense of what it feels like to influence that, to be involved in it, to influence it, and begin to see what those conditions are, experience what the conditions are for self-organizing. Then the second step, we'll talk about stories of social innovation. Alejandra Tobar-Alatriz will share information with us about her projects and social innovation, particularly that she's seen. Sam Grant will talk about one that he's seen. I'll share stories. Wendy will. We'll invite you to reflect on social innovation projects you've seen in the past. And we'll think about, in those conditions, what were the containers and how did they change in the innovation? What were the differences and how were they transformed in the process of the project? And exchanges, how were they shifted so that the patterns, the social patterns, really went through an innovative transformation? Through those stories, then, we'll define what the CDE are so that people are comfortable with and understand the conditions for self-organizing. And then we move into smaller containers. You'll have a chance to describe your project in 1 minute. This is in addition to the hard copy answers to questions that Michael has asked for. So those questions that you answer will be up on the board, on the wall, on posters. But this is a time for you to take exactly 1 minute, 60 seconds to introduce yourself and your project to the group at large so they can decide which of the many projects they want to join. Then we'll have a break. Then after break, you'll convene all of the people who are interested in focusing more deeply on your project. You'll have a few minutes, probably about 10 minutes, to describe what your project is and why, and particularly what are the issues, the barriers in the current pattern that are challenging you. What is it that you want to accomplish? What do you need to break through in order to go your next step of social innovation? Then the group will divide into smaller groups, 4 or 5. Remember, a small container helps with fast self-organizing. Small groups, each small group will answer a series of questions. Questions that are in what, so what, now what, to look for an option for action that may feed into and support your social innovation. So the first questions, cluster of questions around what are, when you think about the innovation you want to unfold, what containers are currently influencing the pattern, the current situation? What are the differences that are making a difference currently in that space, shaping that pattern? And finally, what are the exchanges? How's stuff flowing? How is information flowing from one place to another? What's that current pattern? The second question is, so what? So what does that mean for possibility? So what could you do to change one of the containers and shift the pattern? So what might you do to increase or decrease or amplify or introduce differences? So what could you do to add or draw, strengthen or weaken exchanges that are present? And what would any one of those changes make in the pattern overall? What would shift that pattern toward the innovation that you imagine? Finally, the question is, now what? Given all those possible options for action to shift the conditions, which one is that small group going to recommend? Then they'll come back together with you and your project, and you'll hear from each of the small groups. And from their input, you'll select a single intervention that you think will be most effective for the group and for your moving forward in your innovation. We're hoping that you get lots of ideas for lots of actions and opportunities, but we'll ask you to share one back with the group. When that's done, we'll all convene back into the large group. We'll hear from each project. We'll hear about the next innovation lab, and then we'll close. So that's the plan for the morning. I hope that you're looking forward to it. We certainly are. And we believe that we can't predict how this self-organizing process will go. But we're hoping that these conditions, the conditions that we set together, are ones that speed up, accelerate, energize the social innovation that you're looking to build. If you'd like to have more information about containers, differences, and exchanges, or what human systems dynamics sees in self-organizing systems, drop me an email. I'll be happy to share, or you can go online and see our website, www.hsdinstitute.org. Be glad to share documents with you. There are pages there. We also have a social network site, hsdcommunity.ning.com. And so you could go there and have conversations with folks. There are also documents there. If you have questions about the 22nd, please be in touch with me or with Michael or with Wendy. I think all of our email addresses are there for you. And finally, in preparation for the 22nd, we'll be having a teleconference on May the 17th, 2 to 2:45. You'll be getting more detailed information about how to connect. But we hope you'll join us then for any questions you might have. So that's the plan. I think that's it for now. If you have other questions, suggestions, comments, inquiries, ideas, please feel free to be in touch with Michael or Wendy or me. Thanks. Bye.